joining me. It's great getting to chat with you. Obviously, been following your career for a good while now and doing very well. So great to see. I saw though that you also did some commentary and interviewing the Hudson Valley Grappling, which looked like a cool thing. How was that?
Yeah, that was good. So I know Mike Wacker. He's the guy that organized it. It's like his competition, and I train up at his school sometimes, Black Hole BJJ. And so I did like the post match like interviews, and I did some commentary and stuff, which I've been wanting to get into. That's something I kind of want to do, like while I'm still fighting and like after fighting. So it was like my first time actually doing it, like on a live thing for flow, grappling, and stuff like that. So it was super cool.
Were you nervous at all?
I definitely was. I think my first interview was a little awkward because I think the girl wasn't used to being interviewed either. So she was a little awkward and I was a little awkward. But once I got that out of my system, I think I did a little better.
Yeah, once you get the first one out of the way, at least in my experience, then smooth sailing, at least better than the first one, right? You got to get that one
Yeah.
out of the way.
Yeah,
So that's cool, though. It's very cool to see you getting, especially at your age. And correct me if I'm wrong. Are you studying to be like a commentator a little bit, at least in school? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I took off this semester, just cause like I had my fight in September and stuff, and I didn't want it, like my training to get messed up with school and everything. But I was studying like television and digital media, and I had like a concentration in sports media. So I had like a little knowledge with that, but there's nothing like actually doing it,
Right.
getting that life experience.
Yeah, I mean, good to have it in the back pocket, right? So, what kind of inspired you to, at least, where'd the interest come from in that kind of aspect?
I mean, I think just from watching the fights and stuff all growing up, and then like I wanted to actually fight myself, but then I was always thinking about like, because fighting, obviously you can't do it forever. Like by your like mid 30s, it's pretty much over for most people. So I always was thinking about like, what would I want to do like after fighting? And I always like, I feel like when I'm watching the fights, I'm almost like commentating them with whoever I'm watching them with anyway. So I was like, that would probably be something super cool, especially like, but I spend so much time doing this and everything already. So I know so much about the sport and I have such a passion for it. And I feel like when you actually have a passion for it, that comes through when you're like commentating. So yeah, I feel like that was just something that I feel like it'll be a natural flow. And I did enjoy it when I did it this last time. So I definitely want to get more experience and get better at it.
Well, that's the most important part, right? Is actually enjoying it. It's one thing to imagine how it'll go, but then if it goes well, you're like, all right, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And is it cool for you to kind of see Laura Sanko getting, her opportunities to do it too? Maybe open the door for more women like yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was super cool. I think Contender Series, she was like the first woman to do like live commentating, which I thought was super cool. Like she's definitely helping open up the door for women in that way. Because I don't think they've even had women do it like for a real UFC event yet, but I think that's definitely coming. Have they?
The first event, actually, the very first event was yeah, I forget I'm blanking on her name. I apologize to her, but she was like a boxer, and she did the very first event with like Jim Brown, and I forget the other guy too, but yeah, they haven't done it since then. It's funny that it was the first one though, right?
Yeah, it is funny. That's the first one, and they haven't done it since, so maybe they'll have to start doing it again.
Yeah, perfect. Better late than never, I guess. But here we are. So, as for you, Erin, I want to congratulate you on the fantastic debut that you did have, though, with the win against Sarah Alpar. Great stuff there. Very, very dominant. And, having had plenty of time now to kind of look back on it, how do you feel about it? I know you're kind of bummed you didn't get the finish, but still one-way traffic there. How do you kind of break it down now with the extra time we've had to digest it?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially I was kind of bummed about it, which is kind of funny because I noticed that too. When I was interviewing people, like when they didn't finish their match, even they had a great match and they did fantastic, but they were like bummed that they didn't get it. And it was funny to see it from that other perspective because I had to tell them like, no, you did a great job. Like I know you didn't get the finish, but yeah, I think in retrospect, it was a really good experience. I mean, I feel like it was nice to get those like 3 rounds. I've had my 3 rounds in the UFC already. And I feel like I was able to watch it and like go over a lot of things, maybe little mistakes, like little adjustments that I could have made to maybe get that finish for like the next fight. But yeah, I feel like it was a great experience. And I'm excited for this next one to have a full crowd and everything.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Was it weird fighting without a crowd?
My last fight was without a crowd too in Invicta.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like one fight like that. And like this one, there was a few, because the Apex was open to some audience, but there wasn't too many people. There was like literally like a handful of people
Yeah.
there. So it was still pretty quiet. But honestly, I didn't mind. I was able to hear my coaches and everything clear. The only weird thing was that I could hear Michael Bisping was commentating. I could hear him when I was like in there, like when I had her on the ground. So I was like trying not to listen to him, but everything else was great about it.
Yeah, I feel like that would be very distracting, just especially knowing like this being like, oh, what is he saying? You know, I wouldn't be able to not think
very,
about that.
like, distinct voice too, so I was able to hear it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. But it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned Invicta actually, because you know, obviously that was where most of your career has been so far, and I think a fantastic platform, obviously for the women, pretty undeniable, right? But having gotten to go through that and you know get your reps in there, how important do you think that kind of was? You know, leading to this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was super important because I had 2 wins over UFC fighters already. My one loss was to a UFC fighter, so I was fighting like super high caliber fighters already in Invicta, and that was a big reason why I wanted to go there because I knew they had like high level competition, and I knew that I'd get better going there fighting those girls. So I feel like that was super beneficial for my career, and it gave me a lot of confidence going into the UFC.
I mean, Erin, if we're gonna be honest, you should probably be undefeated, right?
When you leave a fight that close, you can't really complain, and maybe I'll be able to get it back one day. But yeah, it was a good experience.
I'm sure it just kind of motivated you too to be like, all right, I don't want that to happen again, you know, leaving it to the hands of the judges, which is why you want to finish more and more as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you know, before you came to the UFC, you were supposed to have the title fight with Pearl Gonzalez. And looking back on that, it's kind of weird because you ended up in the UFC maybe sooner because of that. Do you feel that same way? Is it kind of like missing out was maybe good in the end? It's weird not to, you know, get the title and stuff, but how do you look back at that whole situation?
Yeah, it was a weird situation because I had that fight with Invicta back in like July 2020, and then I was supposed to fight for the title, and then that got canceled because pro like COVID, and then they were trying to like set up other things, but it just never came about. And I ended up not fighting for like almost a year. But I feel like that year gave me a lot of time to like just train and like just focus on my actual training and progress and get better, like without having the stress of a fight. And I kind of always was motivated anyway to get in the gym because I always like, oh, I might have a fight. So I didn't know. And plus I just love training anyway. So I would have been in the gym anyway. So even though it kind of sucked and like at the time, I feel like it really sucked, but I feel like it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. And I feel like I spent a lot of time like drilling and stuff like that without having any stresses of fights. So I was able to just focus on like my skill set and what I felt like I needed to improve. So I think in the end, it all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the UFC now, so that's for sure. And did you train? Did you change training? Excuse me, kind of things change up for preparing for a 5 round fight. You know, some people say they always do that, but you know, at that stage, were you kind of changing things for that preparation?
I think well, the only thing that really changed was like just making sure I was sparring like 5-5s like a few times a week. Cause usually like if you have a 3 round fight, I'll spar like 3 or 4 rounds. But since it was 5 rounds, I was making sure I was getting like those 5 rounds in a few times a week. But other than that, like because cardio is always something that I'm kind of blessed with. I feel like cardio has never been a problem for me. I always feel really good in my fights. I never have cardio problems. I don't think I've ever lost a 3rd round. I have great cardio. So that wasn't a problem for me. It was just making sure that I stayed like sharp the entire 5 rounds and don't get like sloppy and just start like brawling, you know.
Right, definitely gotta maintain the balance of everything, right? So it's funny, Erin. I know that you started kind of getting into combat sports and jiu-jitsu specifically at 7 years old, right? Which is very early. And so I've kind of heard the story about that, but I'm curious, why it was your mother that got you into training, right? What kind of made her prompt you to do that? Did she train? Like, tell me a little bit of that backstory.
Yeah, no, I mean, she never trained herself actually. But she just wanted me and my brother to be able to defend ourselves. My dad did a little like boxing and stuff, I think, growing up, so he was into it too. And I think like at the time I had just quit like dancing, so I didn't really have any other sports that I was doing or anything that I was really interested in. And my brother was training already because my mom put him in super young. He was only 4, so he didn't really know.
Wow.
He just went to, he was like, okay, whatever mom says, he went and he liked it. So I went to watch him and they like offered me an introductory class and I took it. And then once I started training, I fell in love with it right away.
Yeah, very cool. And jiu-jitsu was kind of the primary thing, right? And obviously you got the black belt now.
Yeah, the first class I think I ever took was like a no-gi jiu-jitsu class.
Okay. So was it kind of difficult or, transitioning to adding in the striking? Was that what was that like?
Oh no, because the gym that I trained at the time, they had like kickboxing classes and stuff too. So I started training like kickboxing along with my jiu-jitsu. I just started competing in jiu-jitsu more because I think I was kind of like what I had a more natural knack for, and I kind of liked that in the beginning more. So I kind of built my rep off of that. But I always trained striking along the side because I always liked it too.
Yeah.
And I did compete in like kickboxing tournaments and stuff like that too growing up. So I feel like I was pretty well-rounded, like even growing up. I just had to like meld in more. And once I got into MMA.
Yeah, there you go. Then it's just a little bit seamless. And you started, I feel like where maybe people heard about you most was when you won EBI. At least that's kind of where I remember hearing about you first. So that's a really, big thing, I would say, to win at the age that you did win it at, right? So when you kind of look back on that, what was that experience like? Because I mean, obviously Eddie Bravo involvement and just going through it, beating who you did, pretty impressive stuff. And how do you look back on it?
Oh yeah, I mean that was like the first big like competition I've ever done. I remember like the way you had to get into it. I remember when he first posted it, like people wanted you to like, oh, like whoever gets the most tags will like I think get into the tournament or something. And I didn't have like any following at the time, but I knew Eddie because I had family out in California. So whenever I went to visit them, I go train at his gym. So I just like messaged him on like Facebook, I think, and I was like, oh, can I get into it? Like, I think like I want to, like, I think I was still 17, but I was going to be 18 by the time it happened. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll put you in. So that's how I got myself into that. But it was a great experience. And what was super cool was Bruce Buffer was at it too, I remember. So I got to hear him announce my name. And I mean, the level of competition was super high, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like at the time I didn't really care. I already knew what I needed to do. I trained with my coaches and everything, and I felt confident in what I needed to do. So I was ready to go against anyone. And it was just, yeah, it was a super cool experience being on Fight Pass and everything. And I feel like that kind of like got my recognition started. And then I went into MMA right after.
Yeah. And were you a black belt already going into that, or did it come like right
No,
after?
I was a purple belt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Even more impressive then. So, have you done a tag team grappling before? Because that's something Chael does over in Submission Underground, and a pretty unique, fun thing. And they do it over in Japan too. But have you ever been a part of that?
No, I've never done it, but I've watched it. It's kind of a funny concept. I see them like, I think they have to hold onto the cage and still like touch the other person's hand, which is I think is super funny. You see them like reaching, like trying to like get in when they're like in a bad position. Yeah, no, I've never done it, but it looks like an interesting concept.
Yeah, it definitely is a little bit of incorporating, obviously professional wrestling style themes into it. So it's kind of funny in that way. And, are you interested? Do you like professional wrestling at all? Just because I mentioned it there.
No, I never really was into that because I was always one of those people like, oh, like it's fake fighting.
Yeah,
I guess people do it; they do pay really well, but I've always watched. I liked watching like real like combat sports.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was very much into professional wrestling. But then when I first saw an MMA fight, I was like, "Oh, this is way better. This is real." Like you just see the difference, and you're like, "I can't go back. I can't go back now." So, and here we are. But speaking of that, Erin, like you mentioned dancing. Do you think that if you didn't become a fighter, you would be a dancer right now? Where do you think we would have ended up?
I don't know. That'd be kind of. I always thought that too because I think the dance school I went to at the time they weren't really competitive. So they weren't like really pushing. And I feel like I guess maybe even then I didn't like know it like consciously, but I think I wanted more of like a push and I wanted to be competitive. So I think that's kind of why I got bored with it. Maybe if they were competitive, maybe I wouldn't have got bored with it as quick, but I think I definitely have a much more natural knack for fighting. So I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did.
Yeah. And dancing, I don't think people realize how tough that really is, especially like as you get older and get more serious about it, right? Like I'll check out, what is it? So you think you can dance every now and then. Those people are crazy. They're just so good at what they do. So tough. It's very tough, I think.
Yeah, because I had some friends that did it like longer into like high school and stuff. And they were definitely, I mean, it's funny because people always try to act like it's not tough, but like there were athletes too themselves. And even cheerleaders and stuff like that. That stuff's hard. But yeah, I feel like they don't get the recognition they deserve.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, maybe it helps a little bit when you see Dancing with the Stars and people try, and it shows you a little bit. And I mean, hey, Paige did pretty good at that, right? But so it's definitely something. But as for you, Erin, we've had a lot of change ups in your UFC career so far in terms of opponents. You kind of been preparing for all sorts of people. So for you, has it kind of been more of a thing where you're just kind of been staying ready for everybody rather than trying to put too much investment into the person right ahead of you? Because who knows if it'll change at this point.
Yeah, that's funny because I feel like I try not to focus on my opponent too much. Like I try to always just focus like on myself because like you never know what's going to happen. Like I didn't have that fight with Macy. Then I got myself into that fight with Macy and then she pulled out and now I'm fighting Maverick. And I feel like that's happened a few times in my career because even my last Invicta fight, like my opponent changed like 2 weeks out. And yeah, so it's kind of been something that's kind of happened in my career quite a bit. And I've kind of learned how to handle it. I feel like I go over a few things to try to deal with their particular style, but most of the things I'm drilling and going over are for me, just to improve my skill set. So I don't have to really care too much who I'm fighting. But I feel like the funny thing is like she's like my third lefty in a row. So I've been training a lot for lefties. So it's kind of nice that she's just another lefty. So most of the things I've been going over will work too. So
yeah, definitely. And it's cool kind of to see you guys, both come out of Invicta where I think you made your names mostly in MMA and, Maverick just fought Macy as well. Kind of there's like this new wave of all you kind of younger, flyweights coming up and making your voices be heard a little bit. So I'm sure you were familiar with Miranda before getting this fight, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I fought on the same card as her in Invicta a few times. And I wanted to fight her in Invicta too. It just never happened. But now it happened. So it's working out.
Yeah. And I mean, just how do you kind of, assess her at this stage? Because she's continued to improve as you have as well. But what are the expectations a little bit going into this one?
I think it's gonna be a good fight. I feel like she's obviously she's more of a grappler, but her striking's definitely gotten better along the way. I feel like I've seen that through watching like her few fights, stuff like that. But I think I'm better all around. And I'm excited for this fight. I feel like we're gonna put on a good fight.
Definitely. And how do you feel kind of about, I hear some people say, oh, fight of the night would be awesome. But then that means that like it's back and forth, right? Like, do you kind of you prefer that not to happen? I'll take the performance where it's a little bit more dominant rather than fight of the night. Is how you feel?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that way. I definitely want a performance bonus first. I mean, fight of the night, I guess you get the money too, but I definitely want to be able to walk out of there injury free and get a nice finish and stuff like that. So
yeah, seems a little bit nicer, but people are crazy, right? So it's funny too, Erin, like things seem to be, at least from an outside perspective, happening very quickly for you, like in your career, obviously well earned to get where you are now. But if you beat Miranda, like you could very well be in the top 15 after this. She was kind of knocking on that door. And I think she was ranked out when she fought Macy, right? I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
she was.
Okay, around there. So for you being in the spot, does it feel like things are happening super fast? Like, where we are now?
Honestly, not really. I mean, I've been pro for like almost 4 years now, I think. And I mean, I guess maybe they think it's quick because of my age and stuff like that, but I've put so much time into this sport and I've been consistent and I know like what each fight like means for like the next step of my career. So I kind of knew like when I got that fight with Macy that I'd definitely be ranked when I beat her. And then even with Maverick, like I think she was ranked like 13 or 14 when she fought Macy. But the rankings change every week. So she might've got booted out of it now, but like if I beat her, I can get ranked too. So I mean, it's not, I don't think it's been that quick. I feel like I've taken each step of the way and I'm ready for it. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Do you feel maybe any pressure from like the expectations people have from you to kind of drown it out a little bit, or just how do you feel about that kind of thing? Because everyone has, they think that you're going to go far. I myself, I believe, you're one of the best prospects in MMA, period, men or women. So like, I'm going to add some pressure, sorry, but do you feel that at all?
I don't mind it at all. I don't feel that pressure. I like that people think that. I mean, I feel like I put in the fights to deserve recognition like that. Like what are you here for if you don't want that? That's kind of how I feel about it. Like I want to be here and I kind of want that expectation out of myself. I expect it out of myself and I like that other people expect it out of me too. But it's not like a big pressure thing for me. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can use it as motivation, then that's even better, right? Like, all right, now maybe you don't have to like feel the need to live up to these other people because like who are they, right? But at least it's something, right, to give you a little boost. So obviously, as well, sitting atop the division is Valentina Shevchenko. I'm not going to ask you specifically about fighting her because, that's still, we'll get there when we get there, right? Speaking of speed and all that. But, we're getting to that point where a lot of people are saying, she looks unbeatable. What Andrea Lee just this past weekend said, yeah, she looks borderline unbeatable. For you, like right now, when you just kind of look at her as a fan, as a fighter, how do you feel about, that assessment? Does she appear unbeatable to you?
No, nobody's unbeatable. I feel like people always want to build auras around fighters that are on like good winning streaks and stuff like that. It's funny because people always believe it, but it happens all the time and they always get derailed. It's just a matter of time kind of thing. And I don't think there's too many girls like right now at the top of the division that are going to beat her, in like my opinion. I mean, you never know, a fight's a fight, but I feel like there's not really many girls that I feel like it's going to have to be that new generation, like people like me coming up. I feel like, honestly, I don't see any of like all the girls even that I'll be fighting soon. I feel like I'll be the first one to beat her, and it might take a few years, but I mean, she's very good, but there's definitely openings. And I think if people didn't build that aura in their head, that it would be easier to beat her. But yeah, that's kind of like my assessment of that.
Yeah, totally fair. And would it be kind of a bummer though for you, like if she leaves by the time you get like to that title shot?
100%. I definitely would I want to fight Valentina one day. I'd love to fight her. And I feel like she will be there. I mean, I watched some of her like Joe Rogan podcast, and it doesn't seem like she's gonna be leaving anytime soon. She wants to keep fighting, which I think is great. I want to fight her one day for sure. And I think she'll still be there. So see when it happens.
As fans though, Erin, would you say that we got to see that trilogy fight with Nunes? Are you interested in that?
I don't know. I mean, she lost twice already. It doesn't seem like she's too pumped to do that fight. I mean, she might say it once in a while, but I think it would have happened already if she really wanted to. I think Valentina and Amanda, like I feel like Valentina's skills are probably a little better. She just can't deal with Amanda's just size. She's just too big for her. I think if Amanda was a little bit smaller, Valentina would probably beat her, but I mean, they're probably going to make it because there's no exciting fights for Valentina right now in the flyweight division until someone else comes up. So I guess we'll see if it happens. I mean, I think Amanda would definitely win that fight again, though.
Yeah, I kind of lean that way too. But we'll see what happens. She obviously is dealing with two divisions. Nunes, that is, has to get past Pena here on the same card as you, right? So you get to fight alongside Amanda, which is a cool thing, I'm sure. So before we wrap up here, Erin, appreciate the time so much. But, we talked about dance a little bit, some outside the cage things. I'm curious for you, what are some other hobbies you might have right now that, you're really interested in, whether it's movies, TV, that kind of stuff? What keeps you busy when you're not punching people in the face?
I kind of like cooking and stuff like that, and baking. I can't like eat too much stuff right now, but right. I can like bake and stuff for like my family, or I bring it to the gym and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, there's not too much. I watch plenty of Netflix shows. Like I think I just like binge watch that and stuff like that. But right now, especially now, it's like winter here, so there's not too much like outdoors. Like during the summer, I love going to the beach and stuff like that, and doing like outdoor kind of things. But yeah, that's kind of like my hobbies.
Yeah, very nice. And yeah, you mentioned the winter. I was in New York just for 268, right? And it was my second time there, and I didn't realize, how windy it gets, which is kind of where the primary cold came from, at least I thought. And I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I was like, this is a lot of wind.
Yeah, especially around now during the fall, it's like windy. It's not super cold yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah, that time of year, of course. So, all right, Erin, we can leave it there. Thanks so much, for the time. I cannot wait for the fight. I cannot wait for all your fights. I'll be there for this one, so be able to watch it in person. It'll be fun in good old Las Vegas with the crowd. So that'll be exciting for you as well. And just wish you the best of luck, best training camp. All go smoothly, and hope you stay warm over there in the winter. And,
yeah, try.
All right, and I'll see you soon. So I appreciate the time very much. Thanks so much, Erin.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
All right, take care.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you like this video and want to see more like it, give it a like and maybe subscribe if you haven't already. Until then, we'll see you next time.